It's a dinosaur.
Anybody under 40 years old doesn't know what we do.
We're a dying breed.
With a bunch of cars, some aluminum ramps, and some wood. We create magic.
My name is Paul Riddell. I have been a stunt driver. This is my 55th year touring the world with stunt driving shows. I began in 1953 with the Canadian Congress of Auto Daredevils. After a while, I went with another fellow named Mitch Robinson. He had the North American Thrill Drivers, and I ended up being owed quite a bit of money, and I sort of took the show over in 1959, and I've had it ever since.
Paul's wife, Toby Thibodeau, is also his partner on the racetrack.
Be careful, it's a woman driver. Toby Thibodeau from Windsor, Maine, as she rolls this car over.
When I met Paul, I met him in my hometown and went for a ride, and I said, oh, God, that was great. That was lots of fun, you know?
Well, she had a starting gate business, and she was driving starting gates, and I met her at a fair. And her ex-husband brought her over to the car, opened the door, and didn't say, please, thank you, go to hell or anything, just said, take her for a ride. So I did. She never got out. She's been on the road with me 25 years. Started her off driving. She's a good driver. She used to ride motorcycles.
Motorcycles, snowmobiles, everything when I was a kid. Wild, crazy, jumping over everything I could. I'm attached to this business. I'm sure I could do this for the rest of my life. Be happy about it, you know? That's my job. I've always been proud to say, hey, I'm a hell driver.
Here she comes out of the turn. Lucky Lott on one hand, the Grim Reaper on the other, and she makes a light cruise face. Perfect landing! Right on the money, honey! Gonna have a tough time trying to door with it. But she's out, and she's okay.
We're like the only thrill show left that's running with new vehicles and, you know, well-known performers.
Every year, the Riddell family take hell driving across North America. Paul and Toby's daughter, Ashley, has grown up in the family business.
Ashley does a real good job.
Ashley really wants to get a scholarship to be a massage therapist.
Well, at school, I'm a wrestler. I get to beat up the guys and kick in guys' butts.
Disrupt this body turn.
Ashley is athletic. And she does very well at it. In fact, she's Nova Scotia champion. She's been the champion of the whole province for wrestling in her weight category.
She's won 3 years in a row for her weight class, which is a big accomplishment. She's the only one who's got gold 3 years in a row.
Ashley has now won her 4th consecutive gold medal.
She's quite wiry. She's a good wrestler. Coach Carr told me the other day, he says, I can get her down, but I can't pin her. It's like, and he's a big man.
Get those elbows in. If Ashley competes, if they allowed for mixed wrestling, I think at the provincial level, she would hold her own against guys her own size.
Paul and Toby's son, Derrick, is also a full-grown hell driver.
Derrick's coming along real well. He's driving one of the new Mustangs, and we're not nervous at all about the way he drives.
Even at age 9, Derrick couldn't wait to be a part of the show.
He announced even. That was a long time ago.
Derrick Riddell. Thank you. No record. Keep your eyes on the record now.
I know I'm going to miss it a lot during the off-season. During the winter, I like to relax. People say I'm the laziest adrenaline junkie they've ever seen. I get my adrenaline fix during the summer, I find.
From Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, in car number 4, sliding in front of grandstand, ladies and gentlemen, Derrick Riddell.
Derrick does an awful lot of work. I mean, he is humping it from the time he gets up to the time he goes to bed. You know, it would have been a lot easier if it wasn't his father and mother, because then he would just be one of the crew. It's tough, especially with the help situation. We can't get any help. From that perspective, it's kind of tough, and actually on both of them.
I've always been proud of my kids because they've turned out to be pretty good. We have minds of our own.
Lucky Teeter will deliberately roll over a brand new automobile, and that was 1934. Tom and Teeter had fooled around out in the country till they had a pretty good idea how they could make it roll over. Tom was a hell of a good mechanic, so they went and asked the fair secretary what he thought of rolling a new car over on purpose, and he thought that was an idea people would like to see. They'd put 50 pounds of air in the left-hand tires and only 20 pounds in the right. He'd go around the track and get up speed. Then he'd cram the wheel to the right and then hard back to the left and hit the brake, and it would put enough torque on the axle to flip the car. If he did it right, he'd make one complete revolution and end up on his wheels. He could kick it in second and drive away. Then later, they wanted to do it right on the track in a more confined area. They'd run the left wheels over a ramp, and then they could roll it over practically in a straight line.
Hell driving is a dangerous profession. While accidents are rare, they do happen.
July 24th, 1990. Yep, I'll never forget the date. Anyway, yeah, a lot of things went wrong that day, and
It was about when I was 3, and I don't really remember all of it. I remember it happening, and I remember her losing her hand and coming back. But a lot of that, I just remember a bit of it.
We had driven all night long from British Columbia over to Melfort, Saskatchewan to be there for noon, and we got there and they shunted us all over the grounds.
Yep.
And the junkers came in during the show, and people are trying to get the glass out and get the explosives in the junkers and everything during the show. And
doesn't work.
That happened. It didn't work.
I was clowning, and during the middle of the show, junkers came in, and I was help preparing him. And one of our acts at the time was with explosives, and I went to get the explosives.
Our firebomb car, the one we exploded at the end of the show, we had to wire that, and Toby had already prepped herself for her clown makeup, and she was in her clown outfit, which it's a silk outfit, so it created a lot of static electricity.
And it detonated in my hand.
A lot of yelling, screaming, confusion.
She had her hand blown up.
She almost bled to death.
And they said that the crowds were so thick around her that they couldn't get the ambulance through to get to her.
When it happened, she told the guy to pull his coveralls off, and she tied a tourniquet off in her arm herself.
I did it myself.
And just curled up on the ground and waited for the ambulance.
I have scars on my neck from it. There's a couple of them here, and then I have them starting all the way from under my arm right in here, all the way down through and on my breast and down my side.
She was in intensive care for 8 days.
Put you on this morphine stuff and everything, and you're in the hospital, and man, I'll tell you what, you start thinking. You think about everything, you know? Think about my life, what I'm doing, what I'm going to be doing, or if I'm going to change things. And man, I'll tell you right now, check myself out, and I was determined I'm going back.
One-handed woman driver, Toby Thibodeau.
Didn't really slow her down.
You know, it's a really different world, a stunt world for women, especially being on the road. We're not that manly man, but I think I proved the point that women can do it. And I've had a lot of women come up to me and say, you know, we're proud of how you've conducted over the years. Very successful for me, and brought up 2 kids on the road, so I'm happy.
They're brought up on the road like he's been on the road since he was born.
Derrick was a year old when I started on the show, and Ashley was actually born when I was on the show.
Both 10 days old when they first started out going on the road with me, so.
They listen to people like Tony and me and Toby. They know we know the business, so they have trust in us. And we have to make sure that we don't take advantage of that trust and let them get hurt.
I still say they're crazy. Look at them. Grade A lunacy stuff. I see a lot of room for error. I just look at it differently than they would. They probably see me going head on to another car, hitting it at like 70 kilometers an hour and flipping around on the track. They'd probably say that's kind of crazy. But you got a room. And you don't have to worry about the car out torquing and flipping you over backwards. And you got a seat belt too. That's always comfortable.
Derrick's stunt career actually began at the tender age of 12.
I'm doing 3 crashes tonight. Rollover, sidewinder, and a roadblock crash. I get set on fire, I get driven through a wall, I crash 3 cars. I think I'm gonna have a good day today.
And here it comes, the human torque. He can feel the heat, he can feel the torque.
Sidewinder crash, you get a car set up on the track and you get 2 ramps facing the front of it and you go up, you hit that and it just spins it sideways and rolls it. That's a real fun ride.
When the kids were 12, they all did something in the show.
First one I did a rollover up in Thunder Bay.
Well, the first one, it didn't roll over the first time, so he had me go around the track again.
All the way up, and he lays it over and he puts it out.
It went up then, it did 7 sides.
They say once you start, you can't stop.
Just like her big brother, Ashley is not afraid to risk her hide for the fans of hell driving.
Usually when you join a thrill show, the first stunt you do is a slide. I've never done a good slide because I've always been so heavy. I get off the back and I slide about 18 feet and stop. Where Ashley's very good at it.
Well, right now, we've got a young lady stepping front and center. She's donned her crash helmet, and she has a small rubber slide pad on her posterior. Posterior, for those of you who are in Lincoln County, that's her butt.
Put it down.
They're going to take her to the top of the raceway and bring her back down here in front of grandstand, and as they're doing so, in honor of the late great Johnny Cash, we formed a ring of fire right out front and center. Ready or not, out on the turn, coming out here, she's going to drop down into the slide position. She's crouched down behind that Ranger pickup truck and drops off of that slide and slides through that fire. Oh my gosh, look at that. The length of the grandstand here tonight. She's all right, see there? Wow.
Yeah, my brother dreamed that thing up one time. He saw a truckload of ice pull away from the crossing and all went all over, and a guy came around and hit the ice. And the reason that was so handy was that we were doing brick walls at places like Jockey Club in Hamilton and Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, and racetracks where they loved these trotters and these pacers. So we lost some fares because they said, we don't want none of the brick and rusty crap off these old cars. So we said, oh, we do an ice wall crash. So the ice just melts away. And that wasn't hard to get rid of because we played these fairs in the hot summertime. The carnival guys would come over after you'd hit the ice and they'd take it and wash it off and put it into the orangeade. If it got gasoline on, they probably had to wash it a little harder. Yeah.
The Riddells have taken their show all over the world, but their home is in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, on the east coast of Canada.
We've got a beautiful lighthouse here behind us. We've got the Atlantic Ocean meeting the Bay of Maine, and it's where Toby and I really fell in love with Yarmouth. We would drive around, and we came out here and spent an afternoon here and really fell in love with the place.
A lifetime of stunt driving has taken its toll on Paul.
This winter, I was in the hospital 23 times. I had a tumor in my eye, they thought. It turned out it was only a cyst, and I had a doctor work on me all winter long. But I was quite concerned I was going to lose my eye. That spot is gone now, eh?
Yes, it looks much better now. This eye is good. So we'll reduce the drops to once daily.
Once daily for now.
Okay.
And I'll see you next week.
And see you next week. Okay.
Thank you.
It's hard for him today. He's got circulation problems with his legs and stuff, and we're not getting younger.
Once they're on the road, the Imperial Helldrivers work around the clock to deliver a great show.
People really don't, I don't think they realize how much work it really is for us every day, and it's all fun and games. Well, it's not all fun and games.
We had 1,100 miles to come out to here in Wisconsin, and before that, it was about 4 shows straight every night with a 400 to 500 mile jump in between. That was rough.
We have a smaller crew this year. There's only 7 of us, but 7 good people. What we need are ramp hands, helpers, like to move ramps and that. Let's get this top up first.
Say, okay, if you're going to do a show like you normally do, but you can't.
Ladies and gentlemen.
From Copenhagen, Denmark, Tonny Petersen. From Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, Ashley Riddell.
Especially with the help situation, we can't get any help, so it was a tough show. It was a long show because of it.
The Imperial team has to be performers and ramp hands at the same time, and it is exhausting.
But then you got to consider, you get to the track, you got to get all these old cars ready, get the track ready.
Right now, Derrick Riddell is going to go on his drag home.
No, you're tired. You're tired from loading. You're tired from doing your show and driving from point A to point B. Doing it all over again. You get a little bit of sleep and then you set up, do your show, tear down, do it all over again. So we're all getting really pooped out. So I'm glad we have tomorrow off because we need some rest. We have to rebuild a few things here.
And when something breaks, it's always on a Saturday or a Sunday where you can't get professional help to, and like shops open early.
Can't just find military parts everywhere. Oh, we've had problems with the car carrier, leaky hoses, this, that. Everything's been going.
When just something really unforeseen happens and it's out of everyone's control, and people just get a bit on edge, that gets stressful.
Okay, light it. Here, light it.
Light it. Here it comes. And away. Yes, indeed.
In this rare footage from the 1930s, Death Dodger Jimmy Lynch unveils his newest creation.
Well, Wally, what do you think about the new stunt? Well, Jimmy, I have made ramps for you, built them for over 2 years. I've watched the height of the jump and the distance. If you'll make 70 miles an hour, you have an even chance of making it. All right, I'll try it.
From the beginning, promotional deals and corporate sponsorships helped to support the financial challenges of a Helldrivers show.
When I came out with my own show in 1959, I went to see a fellow in Montreal who was with Chrysler. And he is the one that set up my first Chrysler deal. Sponsors are nice, they help pay the bills.
We used to have car salesmen on the field that had sold anywhere from 5 to 15 cars right after a show, right on the track. So the audience were convinced that the cars we were using were rugged.
That's what thrill shows started to do because nobody had cars back then. So they showed that you could drive them on 2 wheels, you could jump them through the air, you could roll them over, you could do stuff with them. And people thought, ooh, ah.
And we were the perfect venue to take this to the heartland of North America to show the people the dependability and reliability of the product.
In '59, we went and bought Chrysler products, and I ran Chrysler products till '73. Then in '74, we used Pontiacs. And then in '75, we had the deal with the Export A. And we went back and we used little Mavericks with V8s in them. They were quite a peppy little car. You know, it's an odd thing. They had done a survey before they hired me. It was amazing. It's in the millions of Canadians that when you say Paul Riddell, They say, reply Helldriver. Then 77, I went to Thunderbirds. And then 79 went to Mustangs. And then when they changed the model, I guess it was about 93 somewhere, they just didn't do our job anymore. So then we went over, used Chrysler products for a while. And then they came out with the new Mustangs, and we've been using them since, and they don't break. So that's the main thing with us. Just like when I had the PT Cruisers, they didn't break, so we were happy using them.
When I started out with Jack Kochman, I guess the cars were $1,500, $2,500 to do his stunt shows with. It's getting too expensive to run a tow show.
I used to buy a fleet of cars for $20,000. You pay about $1,800 to $1,900 a car. Now I'm paying $28,000 for one Mustang.
I think that if you have a sponsor that you have better equipment, and we've had lots of flash in our shows when we've had sponsors, but when you don't, you gotta do what you gotta do.
When you put the show on the road, it costs you $250,000 to put it out. A lot of people don't realize that. It didn't used to cost $250,000. But then again, we ended up with cars for nothing because we were subsidized. We had sponsorships, and the money they gave you looked after the depreciation of your vehicles, you know. But that's all a thing of the past.
Gas has gotten expensive, insurance has gotten expensive. Insurance company's your partner. You know, whether you like it or not, he's still your partner. He's standing there. Every show, he wants his share.
Spectator liability has gone up 20-fold. It's 20 times more expensive last summer than it was in 1960. The expenses have just gone crazy.
I don't think there's any future in it. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because I think it's good entertainment.
Derrick, you gotta put some new pictures on the internet, right?
Along the way, the Riddell family has had to learn to promote both their show and themselves.
There's a lot of preparation. So much work goes into it, so much planning. We have to go to these different conventions, just book shows, to meet people. And you know, you gotta really always have a smile on your face. And when things go bad, hey, you gotta keep your chin up.
This is show and business. And if you don't take care of the business end of the business, then there ain't no show. And the business is getting out here and promoting it, booking it, working hard. And it takes all winter to do that. And that's probably the most difficult part of this whole ball game that Paul and Toby and everybody in this business has ever had to do.
Maybe Derrick will take it over, I don't know. But I think he's more sensible than to take this over.
I've thought about it a bit. If there's not a next season with Paul, I'm gonna try and do my own thing, maybe, you know, to racetracks in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, in that area, maybe into Quebec even. But I'll just try some of my own stuff, do something small to start off with, see how it goes on from there. If there is something next year, I'll come out again with the old man and have some fun.
Truthfully, you'd have to have an awful big sponsor to be able to start up a show again.
I was there in 1935 with Jimmy Lynch. Well, Lynch developed the horse car that you could drive when you were sitting on the hood. Put an accelerator out on the fender, and if you hit a bump, you'd shake your foot off of that pedal. That car'd stop like it hit a brick wall. They had a saddle on the hood, and Lynch connected the tie rod to a wagon tongue that you could pull with a rope in each hand. You'd turn the wheels back and forth. And Jim had a 10-gallon hat and cowboy boots. It was a great publicity thing. And he hit the road with that, subsidized by Plymouth. You could tie that car to the bumper of another one with a piece of fish line. The car would follow you wherever you went. It worked great.
Paul Riddell is the world's most experienced two-wheel driver.
When I was with Canadian Tire, I brought people for rides. Every day I would take 200 people for a ride. Like I would do it every 15 minutes from morning till night, all day long. So I had different weight each time, so we're just like going to university for hell driving, for driving on two wheels. I learned an awful lot. And with the different weight in it every time, it changes your point of balance. So I'd have to make a split-second decision as I went off the ramp as to how high I could go. But I just picked up that sense of different balance so quickly. It is just second nature. Because if you have to stop and think about it, you're going to roll over.
He gives all he can, trying to get all the way around the track, because he just tries to please the audience, so he tries to do that every time.
I think that's why I've gotten so good. For instance, I haven't rolled since 1991. I haven't dumped a vehicle. And I've blown a lot of tires in that time, and I still didn't dump them. And you go to see other thrill shows, you don't see drivers bring people for rides like I do, because it changes the point of balance all the time.
And there it is.
The thrill show clown and the announcer keep the momentum rolling and are the connection between the stunt performers and the audience.
The announcer does kind of like a play-by-play for the crowd. They don't know what they're looking at unless the announcer explains things to them and explains why such and such is happening or who's going to be doing it. I'm able to sit back and kind of watch things creatively happen and explain that to the crowd. So I have a little better insight.
The main thing the guy on the mic has to do is maintain control of that whole thing. He's got to keep that crowd in the grandstand. He's got to keep them out of the way. He's got to have the emergency people on tap and ready to go.
I don't like delays. Like last night, one of the junkers didn't want to run. There was a big delay there. Our clown, Ron Hanley, he picked it up with the announcer, Larry Rich. They went into some jokes until we get that car out there and ready to roll.
The clown is basically a filler for when they're changing the ramps, when they're getting a lot of the stuff ready.
That ain't no firewater.
So I joke with the audience and just basically have fun. We're a big, happy family, I think. Toby's a great person. Paul's a fantastic guy to work for. Everybody works their butt off for this show. I started out as the announcer. I said to Paul one time that I'd love to try clowning, and from then on, the microphone was out of my hand, and I was on the track, running around, made up, having a ball. Still having a ball.
Hey! I see a problem.
Yeah, there's a motor in there.
Yeah, there's a motor in there, and what's the matter with it? What's the matter with it?
That's the carburetor.
Oh, the carburetor. What's the matter with the carburetor?
That ain't carburetor.
It's not carburetor, yeah. And what
The
else?
gas tank ain't gassing.
The gas tank's not gassing.
The generator ain't generating.
The generator's not generating.
And the pistons.
The pistons, they're not
Going up and down.
going up and down. Oh.
I like the Autobats going on top of cars.
There gets into position, holding on tight.
I had worries that I would fall off if the bar broke or the platform came off. I tried a few times before the first show, and it was the creepiest thing ever. Mom drove me, and she started off like 20, and that wasn't so bad, but then she tried over the ramp, and then she went faster, which really scared me, and I didn't even want to do it anymore, but then she reassured me that it wouldn't come off or the bar won't break because it's really hard.
Tonny Petersen and Ashley Riddell. They're going to ride on top of the Speedy Mustangs. And we're going to send them to the top of the raceway. Away they go. Going back to the days of the Roman chariot. Roman riding. I don't know. The years of the different cross right there. Before we get back to the lecture, here they come. Faster the time. Tonny Petersen and Ashley Riddell up on top, behind the wheel, Paul Riddell and
To make me a little less scared, she made me do it one more time, faster. And I just kind of get used to it, so now that makes me happy.
Brad's pro was to jump over my big double-decker bus in this 39 Chevrolet. And we were out testing. Brad had done a jump perfect. And then the second time, in the following Sunday, he wasn't going fast enough. He hit too short, and he broke his back. The track manager said, well, we'll have to run an ad and say it can't be done due to injury. And I said, no, we'll do it. I'll do it. At this time, I'm 62. I was 62 years old. The car was not running all that great, but it fired up and went around the track. It's cackling and cracking. It wasn't going fast enough, and I pulled it down into high gear. which is an absolute no-no. And it picked up speed, and I was 25 feet high off the blacktop. And it was very quiet, very quiet.
How do you feel? I feel happy. I feel it's over.
My job was to thrill those people, and apparently it did.
This is for the big blast at the end.
Losing her hand hasn't stopped Toby from performing the show's grand finale, the flaming dive bomber crash.
We had a firebomb between the grill and the radiator, and the fan spinning vaporizes the gas and makes a hell of a fireball.
This is for the grand finale. I make sure everything's secure. Derrick put an extra seatbelt in here for me because its seatbelt wasn't good.
Tied around the handle though?
This car is gonna go for its last trip. Dive bomber off the big ramps.
Okay. That's it. Yep.
When I go over the ramps, and she's all flames. It looks pretty cool. We're gonna crease the hood so that the airflow will come out through the sides. Right. That's about right there. Yep. Okay.
We get on there.
I'm worried about my mom sometimes because she has to do the big jump and like go in the flames. That freaks me out because I don't want her to get burned or anything.
They don't like seeing their mom get hurt. I know that.
Hell driving is filled with hidden and unforeseeable dangers.
I want you to keep close eye right out here.
We are not sure of the old junk cars. They're there because they're taken off the road because they're not roadworthy anymore. You never know what's going to happen to them.
Here they come out of the car. Toby Thibodeau. Put up the pace now. Lady left on one side and Fred Riddell on the other.
No, that smoke started coming in. And the front doors wouldn't open. But my son was right there. I couldn't see his hand, but I heard him hollering, "Grab my hand, grab my hand."
And she climbed out, she's on
That was wild. I held my breath.
For Toby, this was the first time in her 25-year career that a dive bomber flipped onto its roof. And she takes it in stride.
Never on my roof. That was pretty wild.
I can honestly admit that last night it did scare the bejeebers out of me there for a minute. I mean, the show went good. Nobody got hurt. That's the main thing.
Along with money and equipment problems, the Riddells must battle the weather. But the show must go on, rain or shine.
There were not that many people on the grounds, and we told the fair if they didn't want us to run, we wouldn't run. And they said, well, if people come out, we'll run. So we got on the microphone, the announcer got on, we started up the cars, and the few people that were on the midway all came over to the grandstand. And if they're going to come and stand in the rain, you have to do something for them. But then again, we're probably the only throw show that would run like this.
As his audience shrinks and his expenses grow, Paul realizes the glory days of hell driving are over.
I think we have our personal ring cloud following us around. Maybe it's a message that I should get out of the business, and retire or something. I think there's got enough time for that.
We made pictures of the head-on crash so we could run it in slow motion and see what happened.
With the head-on collisions, your throttle spring, you reverse it. When you take your foot off the gas, it goes wide open. So what you're doing, you're holding back. You have a piece of thread or a piece of wire or something on the throttle, and you're holding it. As you relax it, it goes faster. You pull back to slow down.
There were two kinds of head-ons. There was one you stayed with the car, and you got in the back seat. The head-ons that you remained in, they hit head-on dead center.
We take the back seat and we put that against the back of the front seat.
We took all the cushions from all the junkers and that, and we padded between the dashboard and the seats.
And you get all lined up, and you got somebody that drop a flag, you drop your throttle, and wait, and just before you hit, you duck down. And the secret is you put your shoulder against the seat, and before you hit, you put your head against the seat so you don't get any whiplash.
If each car were going 25 miles an hour, you had a 50-mile-an-hour impact. The same as if you drove one car at 50 miles an hour into a wall.
Those cars were solid. Today, I'd hate to be in one like that, the way they shred, like the plastic starts to fly.
Now, when you hit, if you bounce off, hey, where are you? You're hiding down in the basement, and the car can run into people.
With a head-on, we used to extend the wiring from the ignition coil so that in the head-on crash, that wire would be broken. And that was to guarantee the engine would stop.
I would take a piece of wood, I would notch it, and I would slide that notch over the high tension lead that goes from the center of your distributor to your coil. And I would cut it, that piece of wood, so it would just be long enough that the other end of the board is at the very front of the car, under the hood. So now when I hit head on, as the front end collapses, it pushes that board back, and the board pulls the cable out of the distributor, so it effectively kills the engine.
A more dangerous way to do it was to leave the car. Cars had running boards in those years. And you would get down on the running board and steer it into each other. It would crash a little off-center. When you left the car at 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, you'd slide down past the car that you had just hit. So I did enough to respect them, and I'd rather stay with the car.
For over 70 years, people have been fascinated by the hell driving tradition.
It's the public that's kept me alive. The only reason this show is running is because I think of our PR. We're good to people. Like after a show, we sit around, let the people come out and look at the equipment. Talk to them, answer questions. There you are. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you again. You know, it's only goodwill that's keeping this show going. Nothing else.
The show is good, but business is hard.
We're not giving up. We want to keep going, but with the price of gas and insurance, everything is just killing us.
I'm getting too old. When a fair hires a thrill show, they get more bang for their buck, you know, with us than anything else. I want them to come to my show, be entertained, leave happy, so they'll come back again next year when I go visit the fair.
Kids have learned a lot being on the road. Life's not easy. Number one.
Work ethic, driving sensibly.
Respect for others.
No matter what you want to do, there's always a job out there that can teach you something.
A real thrill show person is not going to give up.
I've been doing it a long time, and Tonny Petersen with me, been doing it a long time. Toby has only been doing it 25 years, but you know, That's a long time. And we're all very good at what we do.
It has to be for love. It's not for money. We don't even know if we're going out next year. We're just going day by day, you know, paying our bills and staying on the road, and hopefully we find a sponsor and, you know, do a tour.
After devoting his entire life to professional hell driving, Paul Riddell decides to retire.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gord Kennedy, announcer for Paul Riddell's Imperial Helldrivers. I started off with Paul in 1974. And this, if you'll have to bear with me tonight if I break up a little bit, because this is the end of the Imperial Helldrivers, our final show of our final year. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Paul Riddell.
This man is a walking miracle. Apparently, you have taken your life into your hands on many occasions. You are one of the drivers and an expert two-wheel driver, I must say, of the Imperial Helldrivers. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you.
What are you doing tonight specifically?
I'm going to take you for a ride, I guess.
Hey, all right. Taking me for, and tonight is your last show?
It's after 50 years.
You're
It's
gonna
my last show.
retire.
I'm
It
going
is
to
your-
retire tonight. Yeah.
Oh,
You'll
well,
be
that's
the
fantastic.
last passenger you ever take.
Fantastic.
The girl I brought for a ride, she was broadcasting live from inside with me.
Maybe the last call she'll ever make. I wish you could see the expression on her face, because I'm going to see that. Here we go. Up, 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 back,
When I popped it up on her two wheels, she said, "Holy," or something like that. And it went out over the airways live.
And there he is, right back again on the 4 wheels. Whoa. You gotta back out of here. How? You shaking? Before, all you do is ride on a 2 wheels.
I didn't feel it.
And that ain't all for a big guy on his 2 wheels.
This being the occasion of Paul's retirement, we would like to say thank you for bringing pleasure for all the people, for all the years. And Paul, would you read what it says on the cake?
50 years of driving like hell. Happy retirement. Thanks a lot. And you would do this to me, eh? You know I'm a diabetic, but I'm going to eat it anyway.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
You've been a wonderful crowd. It's been our pleasure to be here. Please ride safely on the way home. The life you see could be that of your burial or of your neighbor. Have a great big way out there. And may God bless. Thank you very much.
Well, it was just a temporary job until I finished school. And I got into a rut and never got out of it. And this is an honorable profession, and I'm not sorry. I probably would have done the same thing again.